So one of the things I want to do, one second. So what I want to do is I want to abstract away the CloudKit code here so that I can use a protocol that can be mocked. So there's a few instances where I'm like actually using CloudKit classes, but I don't want to do that. I actually want to do create a protocol. So we'll take a look at our first example here where I hook up to the CloudKit container. I think the first thing I could do is create a factory class. Excuse me, a factory protocol. So we're just going to call it protocol container factory. And we need a container. And then we need database. What should I call it? Container database. I don't like we'll just stick with container now. I don't want to dwell too much on names. So we're going to need to pass in access to the factory. CloudKit container factory. Go. Just leave that empty for now. It'll be broken, but whatever. And then in here, we're gonna call factory dot container. We're just gonna say with identifier for now. And then container dot private cloud database. That's fine. Call register with a database, so we need to change this. Let's take in a container database instead of the CK database. Let's see what else we could do. So we have a query here, fetch, we have query. First thing we call is fetch, and I think I don't want to do like these fetch operations necessarily. I'd rather do I would rather just put in a fetch call. So fetch records, completion block, dictionary. Where's the dictionary that we create? Where's the fetch operation record ID? Where do we call that? Record ID. Okay. So I'd prefer that we just did. I'd really like to just make this into one call. What do we need in the end? Register. We just need a register method, honestly. And then a completion. So when we test this, we want to make sure that the new data is here based on the device metadata. I'd rather just do register and then yeah, I'd rather just have register as a method. So let's yeah. So what are we doing here? First, what is the result? Registration action result. Created or updated. Okay. Yeah, I'd rather keep it a little bit more concrete. So let's stick with, first we fetch the record. So we need something to fetch the record. And that's where we have our fetch operation with our record IDs. So let's do, what does that return us? A dictionary. That dictionary. Let's just look at this real quick. Oh, it fetches all the records. Okay. Got you. Okay, so let's do function fetch records with IDs. And then when we have, how are we fetching these records? Let's create, where's the record ID created? Based on the record ID here. It's a record ID. UUID. Okay. Okay. So with IDs, UUID. Okay. And then we get back the records. So this is great. Where are we creating the record? So save record from metadata. The record's just like, yeah, it's just a basic. We're gonna have to use probably some associated types, I think. Gosh, I don't like that, but whatever. So let's just create a protocol container record for now. Maybe we can get away with that. So that will give us completion escaping result container record. So error void. I think I did that right. So we got fetch records. We need something to query records. How do we create that? Query, where's the query? Record type and predicate, that's what we need. So query records. Records with type string predicate, ns predicate. I think we can just copy this over. Query record. Yeah, let's add the limit. At this point, like, it would be nice to move this over into like a struct of some sort, but I'm not at that point yet. And as predicate, we got that. Completion. Okay, so I think we're good. That's gonna either return the records or there. Okay. Good. Okay, and then we need something to save a record. So let's figure that out. So I'm gonna go here and save record. Database.save record. Okay, so that should be simple enough. Record is our container record type. And then our completion will be a result that could either be an error or a record, a single record. So what I'm doing is, Nathan, what I'm doing is trying to abstract away the CloudKit parts of this code here that I'm using in Heartwitch. I'm using CloudKit to basically kind of like register a device. Register a device. So the way it works is like when you go to the website, you can register your watch, and then what that does is I'm trying to remove the part in using Heartwitch where it doesn't need you to enter in the code every time you run the app. So right now you need to put in a alphanumeric code, and I'm removing that so that way it'll be automatic. So CloudKit is going to be used to set up, register the device, and then the website will automatically check CloudKit for that registered device and allow you to start a workout in Heartwitch. So this is going to only return a single record when you save. And that looks like it. And this is going to break for obvious reasons. The container. What else do we need to add? We need to add this private database here. It's going to complain that I'm missing stuff, which is totally fine. Var. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in chat. And then that's going to return our container database. So I'm already doing this kind of unit testing mocking stuff with Heartwitch using with HealthKit, and that seems to be working pretty well. All of my Heartwitch code now is stored in a Swift package. So essentially, you can do testing outside of HealthKit or Apple Watch stuff on any Swift package test. And then we need to add this method here. Where is it? Container. Yeah, this one. Oh, jeez, Pete's. So, fuck there. identifier. String container. And then we're going to get a bunch of complaints about container record and this stuff here, but that's fine. So let's just build and see what we get. Good. Container database has to add because we're not going to be using these. We're going to abstract away the query stuff. Oh, fetch user record. Yeah, let's add that. So that was on the container, right? So container func fetch user record. Let's look at this user record ID. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, Ton. Is I am abstracting away the functionality of CloudKit, so that way it could be a protocol. And then the idea would be is that when I'm doing unit testing, I can create mocks for CloudKit. That way I can run unit tests without actually being connected to CloudKit. I wonder if I have like some recently. Let's see if I have anything I could show. Yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, like a good example is this workout repository that's hooked up to the web server. So here's our HTTP workout repository for updating the data and essentially sending it to the server. Like this is obviously using an actual connection to the server, but then I don't necessarily need that connection to the server when I'm testing. So I've abstracted away the URL request. I feel like this is becoming boilerplate code in a lot of my stuff. Is I have a session type that is a protocol for session, and then it does like all this stuff can then be mocked essentially without actually hooking up to the network. So this is an example of that. This is using generics, obviously, and I am hoping to stay away from that because then it gets really complex. But so here's an actual implementation for URL session that uses a session. But then if we go to our mock or our unit testing, we have our mock request, right? We have our mock response, mock task, mock session. So that way I don't have to hook up to the network when I am testing the HTTP workout repository that's used. So I hope that's a good example. And so I'm trying to do essentially the same thing here, but with CloudKit. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, fetch user record ID. What do I got? This right here. Okay, and we will. I'm gonna. What am I doing with this? Is it just? Am I just moving it over to a UUID? Yeah, I mean, I think in the old days with Objective-C it was a lot easier to do mocking because you can do like all sorts of dynamic stuff, but it's a little bit more difficult with Swift. And I think the other thing I get, oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Did you watch the video or did you listen to the podcast? Speaking of the 50th episode. One thing I think people get stuck on when it comes to unit testing is they feel like they have to test the database, they have to test the network, they have to test, like, that's not really unit testing's purpose. That's more like integration testing. So I feel like that's one of the confusions people have is not having to test like actual logic. Yesterday I did a lot of work on testing adding unit tests for publishers. I have like these things called publicists that I call. So if I can show one. So here's one where it does like a coalesce. This is using combine. Like I use this a lot in Heartwitch, but I want to be able to I want to test the logic of the publisher, not necessarily like whether publishers work. And so my unit test for this is fairly simple, where I could just test the logic of, okay, if this is nil, it'll use the other value. Let's find that one. Here it is. So here's an example of where, okay, let's test if the first value is nil and the second value. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I fixed, there was a issue with the YouTube link in the podcast show notes, so I fixed that last night. If you don't find it, it's on my channel. I understand. Don't worry about it. I'm in the same boat as a listener. It's hard, especially with the COVID stuff, for me to find time to listen to some of my favorite podcasts. I'm actually listening to a lot of book stuff right now, honestly. So where was I? Oh yeah, fetch user record ID. So we got no, don't get distracted. So I actually I'm gonna do this just for the sake. I'm gonna use a type alias. So oh cool, thanks for letting me know where you found it. That's always super helpful. Record ID. I'm just gonna call it. I'm just gonna do this. What podcast do I listen to normally? I'm a big history buff, so I like listening to Dan Carlin and I'm gonna forget his name. The Revolutions podcast. I can never remember. Mike Duncan, thank you. I listen to ATP. That's probably my closest technical one. Under the Radar quite a bit. I'm listening to more newsy podcasts with everything going on. I think it's Wall Street Journal. What else do I listen to? Compile Swift with Peter. Peter's been on the show. So, if I think of anything else, I'm trying to think of what else I listen to. Okay, Safe Record, Fetch Record, and that's just gonna be like that. And then we need to make sure that we have. What else do you listen to, audience? Curious to hear. Yeah, good. Okay, so that's right. That is correct. Yeah, it should be, if you go to the show notes for Peter's episode, you can find it there. I always link to his stuff. Query. What's this complaining about? Default argument, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, default argument. And then what's this one? Only applies to function types. This is a function. What's the other one? Container record is here. Yeah, stack trace is really good. Swift by Sindel. Under the Radar. I think I mentioned Under the Radar. Who's Justin C. and Matt DeValia? I'm familiar with those guys. Some soccer and F1 stuff, yeah. Yeah, that would be my history stuff, is probably along that lines of my more hobby-centric podcast listening. What is wrong with this one? Escaping is totally legit. What do you see? What am I doing wrong? Got a result type. I have foundation. Is it gonna be something stupid? Oh, cool. I'll check that one out. That sounds interesting. record. Contain record. I'm not spelling it right. It's probably. Is that what it was? I didn't spell it right. No, that's not it. I think this needs to be. Okay. Very cool. Is that what it was? Was that it? I just need to put in parentheses to make it a parameter. Completion IDs. Did that fix that? Container record ID. We got that here. Container record. Result. What am I doing wrong here? This is the fun of live streaming here. So if I've got container record, part of this is so difficult. Let's comment this. So we got container record is here. Can I not use a protocol? Is that what it is? I bet that's what it is. This is why we're going to end up needing a... Yeah, I follow Sean as well. I think I mentioned him in the latest podcast. And then I watch NKBHD, but I don't listen to. I already have enough NKBHD content with the YouTube channel, so I'm sure Waveform is probably much more of a deep dive. I think I'm gonna need to. Oh well, we tried avoiding this, but so let's go down the rabbit hole here. All right, associated type. Which is a container record. And yeah, I bet that's what it is. I have to do associated type. This is expected type. What it? Let's just do this. See what happens. Okay, so that works. Let me fix it. I'm wondering if I just do. Let's keep this super simple. Let's do mirror this. Even though that's not what I want, I just want to see if it works. Single argument needs parentheses, that makes total sense. Okay, now what if I throw in escaping? Okay, that worked. And then let's do a result type. Do string error. Does that work? That works. Let's do a container record. That works. Okay, what did I do wrong? Let's make it an array. Whatever. Okay. Who knows? Alright, so let's do that. Let's do this, knowing full well that I need to change it to a singular item. That and that. Oops. There we go. Yep. I just created a file accidentally. So let's look. And then we'll fix this one. Do a comma. Get rid of this. That. Oh, silly me. Get rid of that. Record ID. There we go. What is it complaining about? I'm wondering if this is an issue with the type. Seems really strange. If we get rid of this, does it work? Whatever. Container record. Am I like misspelling something here? Is that what I'm seeing? Container record ID. Container. In any case. Okay. So let's start fixing some of this stuff. So container. Let's call it the normal way. Yep. We don't need this. We're doing a flat map. Interesting. So result, and then we're going to do a flat map here. So user ID result. Okay. So let's just copy that. And then we don't need to do this part. Result. Comment this out just to keep it for safe records. All right, so that method should be resolved. Okay, we already have the UUID, so we don't actually need to do this. Record ID. So we don't need to actually do that part. ID. Let's see if that does it. Beautiful. Okay, so let's work on to the next one. So I don't want to do all these like fetch, like I want to do these operations, but then I don't want to actually do them in this part of the code. So I'm going to move that over to when we implement those protocols. It's really tempted to move this, like some of the stuff to Promise Kit. I just don't want to add more libraries than I already need to. So let's see here. We've got the first thing we're going to do is do a fetch. So we just need database.fetch records with IDs, and where do we fetch? Record ID. That would be yeah, I did a talk recently. It's become my favorite Promise library. I did a talk on it recently at UIConf. I recommend learning promises. I think like combine is good if you're going to do reactive stuff, but if you're just doing fairly simple stuff, promises make a lot more sense. I can post a link to my article in the notes. There's a section near the bottom where I talk about promises, so take a look at that. Hopefully that's helpful. It definitely feels like something that they're missing out of Swift. All right, so we fetch the record. What do we do when we fetch the record? Interesting. So I need to do like a map error of some sort. Well, I think I could just do a switch statement here. So let's do that. Do switch case failure caught error. Okay, and then I can probably copy some of this stuff over. What I really like about promises is like this mess of code here where I'm having to do callback within callback. I don't need to do that. So yeah, this should all work correctly. Okay, and then we're gonna call. Looks like we call the query operation. Become a really big fan of React. Should say functional programming, more so than reactive programming. I don't like using strings, but I'm just gonna do this for now. Okay, so we need like ID data. How do we do that here? Yep, look that up. I mean, just look at like stuff like the flat map here. I'm doing it because you can do it with results. You can do it with optionals. You can do it in combine. Functional programming just offers so much like versatility, and it just makes sense to me when I do that sort of development. Yeah, I mean, you could do it's when you're doing, like I said, if you can avoid callback hell as much as possible, that's where like promises would be super helpful. I don't have to like do this callback within this callback. I can just map essentially the results to another asynchronous call. Okay. Result. All right, what do I do? Let's make sure we finish off the success here. Good. If record. I assume dictionary. Is that the dictionary is the success? So let's make sure. So we need to grab the record from the result. Oh, should have done it like that. Switch. What do I do? Failure, 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 failure. And I call the query at the bottom. No, this is right actually. So this is error. If there's an error, we have to call error. What if it's not a CK error though? No, it is CK error. We get the child error. Record item, unknown item. It just needs to return at the end. Let's look at this. So it's not, it never complete. If there's an error, it never completes. Okay, that makes total sense. And then that's where it calls the query right here. Okay, which is fine. gonna copy code and I'm gonna hate it. I hate myself for it. We'll clean this up later. Yeah, because at least in this case, I didn't copy the query over. So let's go. Case.success. Fetch records. And then what do we do if we fetch the records? And then we make sure we have that particular record. This is a dictionary. Interesting. Let me look at this real quick. Yeah, so it returns a dictionary, which is kind of nice. So let's make sure that we change that return type to a dictionary. Where is it? So fetch. So this should be a dictionary. Now does query return a dictionary, or does that? Well, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining the chat. Really appreciate it. If you have any more questions, let me know. Yeah, it's good talking to you too. I want to do this again. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you. Video will be available, so you can watch it later on YouTube. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to live stream. It's just a matter of finding time with all the kiddos home. So let's see, what are we doing here? Query. So we need the query part. We have the success. That's going to be records. This does not need to be. Actually, I'll just do dictionary for now. This doesn't need to be optional. And then we need to call the query operation here, which is essentially the same thing. Where's query operation? There we go. Why the query is also calling the query. Fetch calls query. What do we do? Yeah, this is wrong. So we call the query, and when the query is done, that's this part. Alright, let's make sure this code is correct. Result. So we need to switch this out to switch statement, result. So we need to, I want to do a flat nap because I want to make sure that we grab the one record we're looking for. So we're going to do result flat nap. Records and query record equals query record. So what do? We grab No, I want to see where's query completion operation. Oh, because okay. Record fetch block. Okay, I got that. Interesting. Okay. So I think let's change query. Let's just change it to be like specifically one record. Query record. That makes a lot more sense. And then whatever, if I need to change it later, we can change it later. So query record. So database query record result. Okay, now we'll have a single item. Query record. Okay. So we don't need to do this. We can just do a switch statement. Oh, let's make sure. Just change that to error because I think that's fine. Ooh, where's this coming from? What is record ID? Yeah, we need to use this instead. Let's fix that. Get rid of this. Get rid of the limit. All right. Save, add, and add. Yes, correct. Result. Case dot failure. Let error. And then so, like, I think this should be optional because there's cases where just could be returned empty. So let's make sure we take that into account. And then, so this is going to be an optional record. So if let's go one step further because that's what I'd really like to do. Yeah, there we go. Now we can really break this down. So let record, and we can do database, save record. Yeah. Let's just do better off, honestly. Let's look at this. If the database creates the record, so let's see if I can get away with this. Record from data. Is that it? Yeah, okay. Container record. Database. Metadata. We can do a switch statement. Let's see what we can do. Store dot. Yeah, I want to change this. Record ID. Actually, I'll just do that. What is it? Record ID. Record ID. Make sure that here is from metadata. We'll use record ID, I think. Where is record ID? Oh, record ID is a separate thing. Okay. Where were we? So it should be record ID. Here we go. And then we need to return so this, in this case, we are creating, so, what's that called? Yeah. One. Created. And then we'll just call it new result. Completion. New result. That should work. I'm going to put this warning here. Copy this. There's that. Then covers the query part and the saving. I think I just need to copy this over. That. Yep, and this needs to be copied up here. Let's just make sure this compiles. Container record, right. Registration, action result, and then we need to add record ID, bar record ID, caught error, that should just be error, Q. Should I not case it right? Of course. Just get it for now. Yep, great. So we're going to copy this over. Too much here. There we go. Let's get rid of. We're going to comment out fetch operation. We're going to comment out the save here. And then we're going to comment out fetch records. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. Actually, probably could just do this. Using record ID. Okay, so we do need record ID. Where do I have that? Interesting. Okay. So I don't actually want to do container. We're just gonna create our own. Fetch records. Protocol container error. Here. We really want to find out if the error partial errors by item ID. So let's do item. Let's comment this out actually. We're gonna do guard. Because we don't even need, I'm just going to check CK error. Item not found with record ID. And we don't want the record ID, we actually want the metadata identifier. I believe that's what record ID ends up being. Yep, so metadata rec else and just copy that over. Yep. And then we just need to add function item not found record ID ID UID. And that will be a boolean. Wonderful. All right, so we have the protocol set up here. The next step will be actually implementing this CloudKit. I will see if I can get this on a live stream. Otherwise, I will record it and show it off later. If you have any questions, please let me know. Reach me out on Twitter, LeoGDion, or you can, that's probably the best way, or feel free to message me in YouTube. Thank you again for joining me for this live stream, and I look forward to talking to you again. Bye.